So, good day everyone. We are Group 9 from BSBA to. We're here today to talk to you about demand and consumer behavior. Meet the group: Pachag Parasyuslap, Paralehas Jan Kevin, Perlas Rosame, and Ferpinian Leslie. Table of contents: demand and consumer behavior, consumer choice and utility, individuals demand function, market demand, consumer surplus, producer surplus, and elasticity. Studying demand and consumer behavior is important because it helps marketers understand what influence consumer buying decisions. By understanding how consumers decide on a product, they can fill in the gap in the market and identify the products that are needed and the products that are obsolete. Demand and consumer behavior. Demand is a model of consumer behavior. It attempts to identify the factors that influence the choices that are made by consumer. In neoclassical microeconomics, the objective of consumer is to maximize the utility that can be derived given their preferences, income, the price of related goods, and the price of the good for which the demand function is derived. An individual's demand function can be thought of a series of equilibrium or optimal conditions that result as the price of a good changes. So, ang demand ay isang model ng consumer behavior. Sinusubukan ng mga mamimili na tukuyin ang mga salik na nakaka-impluwensya sa mga pagpili na ginagawa ng mga mamimili. Sa neoclassical microeconomics, ang layunin ng mamimili ay upang i-maximize ang kagamitan na maaaring makuha dahil sa kanilang mga kagustuhan, kita, presyo ng mga kaugnay na mga kalakal at presyo ng mga bilihin kung saan ang demand function ay nagmula. Ang neoclassical microeconomics ay nagfo-focus din sa supply and demand at ang nasa likod nito ay ang production, pricing at consumption ng goods and services. Ang demand function ng isang individual na maaaring isipin bilang isang serye ng ekwilibryo o pinakamainam na kondisyon ay nagre-resulta bilang ang presyo ng isang magandang pagbabago. Consumer choice and utility. Utility is the capacity of goods or services to satisfy a want. It is one approach explaining the phenomenon of value. Utilitarianism is the ethical foundation of neoclassical microeconomics. Jeremy Bentham, 748-1832, formalized utilitarianism. Utility is a subject of evolution of value. Bentham seems to intuitively grasp the notion of total, unmarginal, or incremental utility. So, ang utility ay ang kapasidad ng isang maganda o serbisyo upang masatisfy ang isang wants gusto. Ito ay isa sa mga nagpapaliwanag ng mahalagang pangyayari. Ang utilitarianism ay ang ethical na pundasyon ng neoclassical microeconomics. Si Jeremy Bentham ay pinanganak noong 748 at namatay noong 1832. Siya ay nagformal ng utilitarianism. Ang utility ay isang subject na pagsusuri ng halaga. Bentham believed that the only in terms of utilitarian interpretation do words such as dapat, tama, at mali ay may kahulugan at sa tuwing tatangkain ng mga tao na labanan ang prinsipyo ng utility, ginagawa nila ito ng may mga dahilan mula sa prinsipyo mismo nila. So, here is example of demand and consumer choice. So, next is consumer choice and utility. However, it was not until 1844 that Dupuy 1804-1866 linked marginal utility to the concept of demand. Heinrich Gaussen 1810-1858 developed the law sa table once, which is considered to be a forerunner of the law of diminishing marginal utility. In 1871, William Stanley Jevons (1835 to 1882) used the term final degree of utility, and Carl Menger (1840 to 1921) recognized the individual's rank order of preferences. It was Frederick von 1926 who first used the term marginal utility. So, noong 1844 lamang inugnay ni Jules Dupuit ang marginal utility sa konsepto ng demand. Binuo ni Heinrich Gossen ang Law of Sustainable Wants na itinuturing ng isang tagapauna ng batas na lumiliit na marginal utility. Noong 1871, ginamit ni William Stanley Jevons ang terminong huling antas ng utility at kinilala ni Carl Menger na ang mga individual ay nagraranggo ayon sa kanilang mga kagustuhan. Si Friedrich von ang unang gumamit ng terminong marginal utility.
Thank you, Ms. Patjag, by discussing and giving some thoughts about demand and consumer behavior and the consumer choice and utility. By the way, good day, sir and classmate. I'm John Kevin Paralejas. I'm here to discuss the utility and the individual demand function. Then let's proceed to the total utility and marginal utility. The first one is total utility. Sa total utility, ito ay yung pinakang amount of satisfaction na nagmumula dun sa number of goods. Kumbaga, yung amount of satisfaction ay nakabase dun sa dami ng goods. Ang simpleng halimbawa nito ay yung nagbenta ka ng ice candy na nasa 20 pieces o 20 piraso. Tapos, ang ini-expect mong benta ay sobra dun sa bilang ng ice candy. Siyempre, as nagbebenta, dun ka lang magbabase dun sa bilang o dami ng ibebenta mo. Katulad na lang dun sa total utility na nakabase lang dun sa quantity of goods. While the marginal utility, ito naman yung pagbabago sa total utility na maaaring iugnay dun sa number of goods na nagamit. Then, total utility and marginal utility can be expressed through total utility equals F preferences. Then, the marginal utility equals total utility over quantity. If the larger quantity of a good is consumed in a given period, syempre, tataas yung total utility from decreasing rate. At maaari nitong ma-reach yung maximum satisfaction. Remember the last time you went to an all-you-can-eat pizza place and ate too much? In figure 4.8.1, show the consumed number of pizza was increases per day. Then, the total utility derived from the pizza increases at a decreasing rate until the maximum or 27 is reached at the fifth pizza. As we see in the figure, 10 units of utility are obtained by consuming 1 pizza per day. The consumption of 2 pizza per day results in a total of 18 units. Then, the maximum satisfaction that can be derived from the consumption of pizza is 27, or the 27 was the maximum satisfaction in the total utility of pizza. This occurs at the fifth pizza. If the individual eats more than 5 pizza, their satisfaction rate ay maaaring bumaba, tulad nung nasa figure, na kung saan after ma-reach yung maximum satisfaction, unti-unti itong nag-curve pababa na nangangahulugan na decreasing rate ng satisfaction. Total utility can be displayed in table form, as we see in the presentation. The information in this table is the information contained from the figure 4.8.1. Dito sa table na to, kasama yung marginal utility, Diba sabi ko kanina, ang marginal utility ay ito yung pagbabago sa total utility sa pamamagitan sa pagbabago ng bilang na nagamit or na-consume na goods sa pagtagal ng panahon. In table 4.1, we see the quantity, total utility, and marginal utility. As I say, the information in table was contained from the previous figure. How about the info in the row of marginal utility? So nakuha yung marginal utility through subtracting the total utility to the upper utility. Then divide to 1. Like in this presentation. The marginal utility of the third unit is 6. Paano to nakuha? Here's the formula. Marginal utility equals total utility over quantity or the unit equals 8 over 1 equals 8. Ito na nga, sagot yung kung paano nakuha yung 6. Marginal utility of 3 units, ikatlong unit. Total utility over quantity equals, nakita nyo yung 24 saka yung 18 doon sa table. Pag susubtrakin yun, to 24 minus 18 over 1. Then sagot ay 6 over 1. Then 6 over 1 divide 1 is 6. Then let's proceed to another figure. Pagkatapos natin makuha yung marginal utility through subtraction, mabivisualize na yung slope ng total utility between 2 points na makikita natin dun sa figure sa presentation. The figure 4.8.2 na kung saan makikita natin dun sa figure ay yung between point A and B of the third unit of pizza. At makikita din natin dun yung slope ay tumataas habang tumatagal. Kung makikita natin dun sa figure, ang total utility ay nasa pagitan ng A and B points. The total utility of that is 6. Nakuha yun through subtracting the 24 and 18. Yun na nga yung kanina. And the slope, as we see, rise over run between point A and B is 6. Then let's proceed to the another figure. The figure 4.A.3. And the previous figure, we see the total utility or yung maximum satisfaction na na-consume or nagamit dun sa pizza or nakain. At na-visualize na yung slope nung total utility. In this figure, the slope of an arc defined by 2 points on a total utility function, that the 1 units of good yield 18 units of satisfaction, while 2 units of the goods result in 30 units of satisfaction. As we see in this figure, the marginal utility can be shown as the slope of a line from point R to B. Kung makikita nyo dun sa figure. Then, the actual total utility is shown by the curve between R and B. Yun yung pinakang actual na total utility. Marginal utility can be calculated as derivative. And the 2 units of the goods, the marginal utility will be the slope of the line of GG tangent to the total utility at the point B. Yun na nga yung makikita nyo yung GG tangent to the total utility at the point B. Then let's proceed to the another figure. Figure 4.A.4. In this figure, we can see the relationship between total utility, marginal utility, and the average utility. So, pinakita dito na ang total utility ay tumataas yung slope at the moment of increasing rate. Bawat unit of goods na na-consume ay nagkukos ng pagtaas ng total utility. Then, the marginal utility rise in this range. And the quantity amount, there is an inflection point, total utility, na makikita natin dun sa figure. At ito ay tumutugma dun sa marginal utility. While the average utility is a maximum or they equal. Marginal utility equals average utility. Then kapag nag-maximum ang total utility, ang marginal utility ay 0. Tulad nung nakikita natin dun sa figure. And also, the maximum amount of total utility increases at decreasing rate. The marginal utility or the slope of total utility decreases at the Q or the quantity is the point of diminishing marginal utility. Then kapag ang marginal utility ay greater than to the average utility, sa pagkakataon na yun, tataas yung average utility. Kapag naman equals lang yung marginal utility at average utility, it means the average utility is a maximum. Then the QM in the figure, that the total utility was aligned, it means the total utility is in maximum point. At that moment, the slope of total utility is 0. In short, the marginal utility is the slope of total utility as we see in this figure. Then, let's proceed to the diminishing marginal utility. Dito naman, kapag nag-consume ang isang tao o ang individual during given a period of time ng mga goods, syempre, tataas yung total utility. At tulad nung sabi ko kanina. At bababa o mag-decrease yung marginal utility. O ito na nga yung tinatawag nating diminishing marginal utility. Ayon kay Adam Smith, if the person consume larger of quantities in a given period of time, then the additional unit have less value. He recognized this phenomenon when he posed the diamond paradox. Obviously, the water has more utility than the diamond. But in this case, even the water is plentiful, the marginal value or price is lower than to the diamond that are relatively scarce. Kumbaga, ang gustong ipabatid ni Adam Smith ay kapag dumami yung quantities of goods ay bababa yung halaga nito. Nangyari din ito sa panahon ngayon. Ang simpleng halimbawa nito ay yung sa niyog. If marami yung niyog, yung presyo ay bababa. If maunti naman, saka tataas yung presyo nito, na may ugnay natin dun sa sinabi ni Adam Smith. Then, let's proceed to the budget constraint. Kapag ang goods ay free, dapat itong i-consume ito nang i-consume hanggang sa maging 0 ang marginal utility. Ito ay para ma-maximize yung total utility. Sabi ko nga kanina, pag na-maximize yung total utility, ang marginal utility ay magiging 0. At sabi din dito, pag lumampas ang price sa 0 at may sapat pang budget na dapat na gamitin hanggang maging maximize, parang sinasabi dito na hanggat mayroong budget or good, i-consume lang ito ng i-consume hanggang sa ma-maximize yung utility nito. As individual will buy or purchase a good when utility derived from a unit of good X is greater than the utility from money used to purchase the goods. Ang pinupoint out dito ay pag nag-purchase ka ng goods or product dun dapat sa kauri o ka-unit ng goods na yun at mas mataas yung na-consume na utility na galing dun sa money na nagamit sa pag-purchase ng goods na yun. Ang simpleng halimbawa nun ay pibili ka ng goods tulad ng damit, blue corner na lahat kasi para maka-discount ka at maaari mo pa itong dagdagan na nanaayon dun sa budget mo. Na tulad nga ng sabi ko kanina, yung utility nakaderive dun sa unit of goods at maaring mas mataas o mas greater yung makuha na utility. Ibinasakto yung budget. PX is the price of good. Then MUX is the money. The MBX represent to the marginal benefit. Kapag ang price of good ay greater than to the marginal benefit, the consumer or individual should buy that good. If the price of good is less than to the marginal benefit, they should not buy the good. Itong price of goods at the marginal benefit are equal at balance and they should not change their purchases. At dito sa budget constraint ay nagtatakda ng limitadong budget or lagyan ng limit and a set of prices of the goods that are to be purchased. Kumbaga, bibili ka ng goods na naayon dun sa itinakda na presyo para dun sa limitadong budget. At yung nakatakdang dami ng bibilhin ay mabibili kasi sumakto yung budget dun sa bibilhin. Alangan namang bumili ka ng goods na kulang naman yung budget mo. Siyempre, as mamimili, bibili ka ng goods na sasakto dun sa budget mo. And that's how the budget constraint in terms of utility. These are the how express the budget constraint. B greater than PX QX plus PY plus PY plus PN QN. Equivalent nung B ay budget. PN naman ay ang price of the 9th good. Then the QN is the quantity of good. QX that can be purchased. Budget over price, or the B over PX. B over PX, the amount of good. Y is the B over PY. Then let's proceed to the another figure in table. In figure 4.8.5, show to us the all possible combination of good X and Y that can be purchased lie along or inside a line connecting to the X and Y intercept. As we see, the budget in figure is 80. If the price of good is 4, it means the maximum of 20 units of good Y can be purchased. Makikita natin ito dun sa point A ng y-axis. Then, if the price of good X is 5, a maximum of 16 units of X can be purchased. Katulad nung pag ang price ay 4. Ito ay mapopurchase. Nagkaiba yung X and Y dun sa dami ng units. Yung Y ay 20 units. Samantalang yung X ay 16. As we see, those units was point each other on A and H on Y and X axis. Kung mapapansin nyo na may line na nakapoint dun sa A and H na nagre-represent dun sa maximum combination of good nung X at Y, which mean can be both given budget and prices. And ang combination of goods in the area of triangle can be purchased, as you see in the figure. Nakita nyo dong shape na parang triangle, yung nabuong shape dun sa triangle. At sa pagtaas ng budget, masiship out yung budget constraint. Kabaligtaran naman kapag nag-decrease, masiship in yung budget constraint. A change in relative price will rotate the constraint or change its slope. O magbabago yung slope nun. In order to maximize the utility derived from two goods, the individual must allocate budget to the highest value used through using the marginal analysis. In the table, point 2, we see the two goods, the Cebex and yours. The preferences that determine the total utility and marginal utility that is derived from various units of the two goods, as we see in the table. Then let's proceed to the figure 4.8.6. In this figure, show the preferences of the individual from table 4.6. Yung budget ay $5. Yung price of good ng Cebec ay $1. Dun naman sa yours ay ganun din, $1. Ang individual or tao ay makakabili ng 2 units of good ng Cebec. At ito yung magsisilbing demand function ng goods. Kung makikita nyo, sa figure yung point sa tapat ng G. Ito ay nagre-represent sa parehas at equal na condition para sa mga nagamit or na-consume na goods. Hindi nila mababago ang na-purchase nila without reducing the total utility they derive from the $5 budget. Kumbaga, bago nila mabago yung purchases na yun, dapat may bawasin sila dun sa goods na maging kapalit nung idadagdag nila na naaayon dun sa budget na meron sila. Kung makikita nyo, yung point W ay nagre-represent dun sa lowering price of Cebec to the $50. Then, punta tayo dun sa equimarginal principle. The equimarginal principle is a kind of tool used to optimize the variable in marginal analysis. At maaari itong gamitin para mahanap yung minimum cost ng bawat unit. Then, in the equimarginal principle, as a set for maximizing utility is straightforward. Katulad nga ng marginal utility ng X ng dollar per good na mas mataas dun sa isa pang good, the good of X ang dapat bilhin or i-consume nung isang individual. The equimarginal principle can be expressed. Marginal unit of X over Px equals marginal unit of Y equals Py and equals the marginal unit over Pn. Let's proceed to individual demand function. The individual will tend to purchase more of a good at lower price. Sino baga naman ang hindi bibili ng maraming goods if nalaman na mura ito? Siyempre, ako as mamimili, bibili ako ng marami kasi minsan lang maging mura ang mga bilihin. As we see in the figure 4.8.7 shown the negatively slope function. Unlike dun sa mga previous figure na nagra-rise ang slope positively, ay dito naman ay negatively. Then, the inverse relationship between price and quantity is caused by income and substitution effect. Dito naman tayo sa income effect. Dito sa income effect, kumbaga, pag tumaas yung price ng goods na binibili ng mga tao, bababa yung income. At hindi nila mabibili yung goods na yun kasi nabago yung presyo. Ang isang halimbawa nito ay yung katulad ngayon sa panahon natin. Nagtaasan na ang presyo ng mga bilihin. Dati, sumasapat yung budget mo na kung kabili ng isang sakong bigas. Pero ngayon, kalahating sako na lang ang nabibili mo kasi tumaas yung presyo. Kabaligtaran naman pag bumaba yung presyo. Pag bumaba, mas madaming mabibili. Kumbaga, sapat at sobra yung budget para sa goods na yun. Yun yung tinatawag nating income effect. Then, dumako tayo dun sa substitution effect. Dito naman, ang mga tao ay nagre-react o umaangal pag tumaas yung presyo ng isang goods. Siyempre, as mamimili, hahanap tayo ng pamalit sa goods na yun na mas mura. Katulad na lang pag tumaas yung presyo ng karne. Dati, nakakabili ka. Pero ngayon ay hindi na. Siyempre, as mamimili, maghahanap tayo ng alternative na pamalit. Imbis na karne, ang bibili natin, frozen foods na lang. Kasi mas mababa ang presyo nito sa kasalukuyang presyo ng karne. Pero, pag minsan, ang hinahanap ng tao ay yung mahal. Kasi pag mahal daw, mataas ang kalidad. Kumbaga sa gamit, nabibili, hindi ka nabibili nung mura. Doon ka na sa mahal. O pag mahal daw, original daw. Or yung magandang quality. Compare dun sa mura na madali daw masira. At ito na nga yung tinatawag nating substitution effect. In short, those two effects may be greater or smaller depending on the goods being considered.
So, what is market demand? Market demand is the total quantity demanded across all consumers in a market for a given good. Aggregate is the total demand for all goods and services in the economy. According to this picture, the goods or things that we buy or use in our everyday lives, like clothes, groceries, furniture, and even shelters, and etc. Then when it comes to services, it's all about a jobs people do to help other people. Tulad na lamang ng mga food crew, they'll giving services to the customer who went their restaurants daily, or other stores who serve services. When we say market, it is composed by seller, consumer, and products. They collaborate or working together to have a successful transaction in business economy. Demand indicate people needs and wants. It will happen when the product is seasonal, just like out of this pandemic. Tulad ng pagkakaroon ng demand into drugstore and other store that we buy equipments and other commodities na mas kailangan natin at this time of pandemic. Market demand. If the good has non-attenuated property rights, they are exclusive or pili lamang yung product na kasama para sa kabuoang bilang. The individual's demand function can be summed horizontal to obtain the market demand function. So, as if we can see, the figure for 8.8, P stands for price, P1, 2, and 3. And the D, demand, Anne's demand, Bob's and Cathy's demand, market demand. So, ito yung, pinapakita dito yung pagtaas ng price and pagbaba ng demand. Law of demand. When the price of the product goes up, the quantity of demand for this product goes down. When the price of product goes down, the quantity demanded for this product goes up. Ang dalawang law of demand na ito ay umiikot lamang sa pagtaas at pagbaba ng price and demand. Tulad ng, just for example, sa pagtaas ng produkto ng langis. So, tumataas din yung consumer surplus. The demand function can be viewed as the maximum that someone is willing and able to pay for each unit of the good. In figure 4, 8.9, someone is willing and able to pay $9 or more for the first units. If the market price at were equilibrium, $5 in the graph, the consumer would pay $5 while they were willing to pay in excess of $9 for each of the two units. Therefore, they receive more utility that they were willing and able to pay for than they had to pay. The difference between the reservation price of the buyer, the maximum the buyers are willing and able to pay for each unit, and the market price is called consumer surplus. According in the graph to the right, the supply and demand function established the equilibrium price at $5, so consumers are willing and able to pay more than $5 for all units up to the 10th unit. The difference between the market price and what consumers are willing and able to pay is called consumer surplus. The area of pure in yellow can be visualized as consumer surplus, but since the color of the graph is black and white, siya po yung letter C. If the market price were in $5, note that the seller are willing to produce and offer for the sale the first 10 units at all costs less than $5. This is called producer surplus. Yun po yung letter P. It is area CEP and blue, the sum of consumer surplus and producer surplus in a measure of social welfare. The market has maximized the well-being of both consumers and producers. Just for example, ukay-ukay. We all know that is trending nowadays. There's many buyers ang tumatangkilik sa mga second-hand item, lalo sa bilang ng mga kabataan. Sa pamagitan ng social media, ginagawa nila ang live selling to promote their products. So many customers to buy ukay-ukay items instead of shopping in mall. But this past few weeks, I saw Robinson's Place selling second-hand items like painted pants or mga baggy pants, t-shirt, shorts, just because marami silang supplier. So maraming choices and you all can afford to buy in a low price but with high quality. At karamihan sa mga items na ito ay branded at mga bago pa.
Ang producer surplus ay yung difference between sa pagitan kung gaano kawiling ang isang tao na tanggapin kung ano yung given na or kung ano yung sadyang bilang ng goods or products. Kumbaga, wala ka ng pagpipilian na quantity of goods na yon versus dun sa kung magkano yung matatanggap or kikitain sa pagtitinda ng goods na ang halaga ay katulad sa market. So, the difference between them is yung benefits na makukuha ng producer sa pagtitinda sa market. Parang ano ay, wholesale versus retail, ganun. Elasticity is the one that measures the percentage change ng isang economic variable na nagpapakita or ito yung nagiging basihan kung may pagbabago dun sa iba. Gaya ng kapag yung price elasticity demand ay negative 2, it means na if tumaas ng 10% yung price, magiging dahilan ito upang yung quantity demand ay bumaba or mag-fall ng 20%. Halimbawa, sa candy kapag nagmahal siya, kung dati 1 peso per piece, ibig sabihin madami ang mabibili. So, kapag tumaas siya ng 5 peso per piece, ibig sabihin, konti na lang yung mabibili.